In 2018, Victoria, the daughter of Peter Lawford, finally spoke out about the truth about the Rat Pack. The crime was more sinister than anyone had thought, with drug overdoses, the mob's exploitation of young actresses, and secrets so dangerous that they drove her father to addiction. "I've become a drug dealer to the stars," Lawford wrote in his private diary. Today, we're revealing what really happened behind the Rat Pack's perfect image, and why these secrets haunted Lawford until his death. Was born on September 7, 1923, in London, England. His life began with a lot of drama that would follow him for the rest of his life. His father, Sir Sidney Lawford, was a decorated war hero, but his mother, May Bunny, was married to someone else when Peter was born. This led to a lot of gossip and forced the family to leave England and move to America. Peter grew up in luxury, especially while they were living in Paris. Instead of sending him to regular schools, his mother decided he was born to be an artist, so she skipped classes. His family moved to Hollywood when Peter was 14 years old, and shortly after a terrible accident that changed his life, he ran through a glass door and severely injured his right arm, causing permanent damage that would prevent him from using his hand fully again. It turned out to be a blessing when World War II began, because Peter's injury prevented him from enlisting in the army, which upset his family, who wanted him to follow in his father's military career, but it gave him the opportunity to concentrate on acting, because many actors were leaving for war, giving new actors like Peter the chance to shine. However, Hollywood didn't immediately embrace him. In 1939, when his family became stranded in Florida without access to their money in England, Peter worked as a parking attendant to save money for the trip to California. Once they were in Hollywood, he took on small roles, frequently without any credit, in movies like Mrs. Minor and The White Cliffs of Dover. When Peter Lawford was 19, he signed a contract with MGM, one of the largest studios in Hollywood. The studio saw that he had the potential to become a star because he was young, handsome, and had a polished British accent. However, things didn't start out that way. His mother, Lady May Lawford, caused trouble by requesting that Louis B. Mayer, the head of MGM, pay her a salary as Peter's personal assistant. When the mayor refused, she made the shocking claim that Peter was gay and needed to. Despite this difficult beginning, Peter got his first role in the 1942 film, A Yank at Eton, starring Mickey Rooney. The film did well, and Peter's performance was praised. In 1945, he was cast in The Picture of Dorian Gray, playing a crucial role that demonstrated he could handle serious acting. The film was a hit, and suddenly, Peter was no longer just a background actor, be supervised, which created a scandal that could have destroyed his career before it even began, and severely damaged his relationship with his mother. Peter was one of MGM's rising stars in the late 1940s. In 1946, he demonstrated his talent once more in the comedy Clooney Brown. In 1948, everything changed for Peter when he acted alongside Judy Garland and Fred Aire, two of Hollywood's biggest stars, in the musical Easter Parade. In that same year, he starred in Son of Lassie, which further increased his popularity. Audiences adored his charm and style, and he started to establish a reputation as a sophisticated leading man. Peter's duet with Judy Garland was one of the most memorable parts of the film. The audience loved it, and the song became a classic. The film even won an Oscar for its music. This success made Peter a well-known star, and Easter Parade became a movie that people watched repeatedly, especially during Easter. Peter's success continued the following year with Little Women in 1949, where he played Laurie the Charming Boy. Dor, Who Falls in Love with Joe March, played by June Allison, was another hit, and critics praised Peter for his performance. He brought a mix of warmth and depth to the role, demonstrating that he could handle serious parts just as well as fun ones. Between 1947 and 1953, Peter Lawford rose to fame in Hollywood, appearing in popular films with well-known actors like Jane Powell and Fred Aire. However, his ascent wasn't simple. He faced a lot of pressure when he entered leading roles because he was compared to well-known actors like Clark Gable and Cary Grant. Lawford's life changed drastically in 1954 when he married Patricia Kennedy. The wedding took place on April 24 in New York City and was a huge event because Patricia was a member of the powerful Kennedy family and her brother John F. Kennedy was already rising in politics. Lawford worked hard and developed his own style, playing polished, elegant roles that fit his British background. By the early 1950s, he was one of MGM's top actors, earning $5,000 a week, a huge amount at the time. John F. Kennedy introduced Patricia and Peter, and their relationship took off. By early 1954, they were engaged. Although Patricia's father, Joseph Kennedy Sr., wasn't sure about Lawford at first, because he was concerned about Peter's reputation as a Hollywood playboy. Nevertheless, the couple proceeded with their plans, and after the wedding, they moved to Santa Monica, California, where they gained notoriety for throwing star-studded parties that included Frank Sinatra and Marilyn Monroe. Members of the Kennedy family brought both new opportunities and new challenges to Lawford's life. He frequently made public appearances as a member of the renowned Kennedy Circle, which included the couple's 4 children, Christopher, Sidney, Victoria, and Robin. In addition to his association with Kennedy, Peter was also well known for the Rat Pack, which was a group of Hollywood celebrities who met at Lauren Ball's house in May 1955, following a wild night in Las Vegas. Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, David Nian, and Angie were among them. The original Rat Pack was born when Ball noticed how exhausted they looked and joked, "You look like a goddamn Rat Pack." This group wasn't about big shows or dazzling performances. They were just friends having a good time throwing wild parties and living life on their own terms. Bogart was their leader, known as the Packmaster, and Ball was their den mother. They even made up ridiculous rules like never rat on a rat. The group became well known for their antics, including convincing a pilot to change their flight and fly to Las Vegas instead of London. The original Rat Pack didn't last long. In 1957, Bogart passed away, and the group faded away with him. However, the idea of the Rat Pack had been born, and it wasn't going anywhere. By 1958, while working on a movie with Dean Martin and Shirley Mellon, Frank Sinatra began assembling his group. Sinatra had a big vision. He wanted a group of entertainers who could rule Las Vegas and Hollywood, not just friends to party with. A new era of the Rat Pack began, when Sinatra called his group the Klan. But in 1960, a journalist pointed out that the name might offend people, so Sinatra changed it to the Klan. Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. were the first to join, and they clicked immediately. The group's first big moment happened in January 1959 at the Sands Hotel, where all 3 were booked for separate shows. But they started jumping on stage together, making jokes, and singing as a group. The crowd loved it. Peter Lawford joined the Rat Pack because of his special connection to politics. He had married Patricia Kennedy, John F. Kennedy's sister, in 1954, making Lawford a link between Hollywood and the Kennedy family. And Sinatra saw this as an opportunity to gain more power. Although he didn't love the name at the time, the group was already becoming a huge hit with their mix of music, comedy, and charm. Lawford formally joined the Rat Pack in 1960, but it wasn't an easy start. Dean Martin, and because of his marriage, Lawford's position in the group was never secure. And Sammy Davis Jr. wasn't sure about him at first, believing he hadn't earned it. However, over time, Lawford won them over with his charm and willingness to join in on the group's crazy antics. In 1960, the Rat Pack took over the Sands Hotel and Casino, where Peter, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and Joey Bishop gave performances that people still talk about. While all of this was going on, Peter's acting career was also thriving. He began in films like Exodus and The Longest Day, but his real claim to fame came from the Rat Pack films, where he played Jimmy Foster in Ocean's 11, which was released in 1960. These shows were not just concerts today, they were late-night parties full of music, comedy, and surprises. They performed for 28 nights straight, drawing celebrities, politicians, and wealthy fans from all over the nation. In addition to being entertaining, the film made over $5 million at the box office. However, what many people don't know is that Peter was the reason Ocean's 11 even happened. He had purchased the rights to the story and had originally intended for someone else to play the lead role. But when Sinatra expressed interest, Peter gave him the role, which helped secure his place in the group. Following Ocean's 11, the Rat Pack made more movies together, including Sergeants 3 in 1962 and 4 for Texas In. Although these films weren't as popular as Ocean's 11, they maintained the group's fun and charm. Peter's role in the group was always different. He added a touch of class with his British accent, sharp suits, and aristocratic manners. He wasn't just acting, he was raised in luxury as the son of a British Army officer, so this sophistication came naturally to him on stage. He used his English charm to create humorous moments, such as when he attempted to teach Sinatra and Martin how to play cricket. The audience loved it, and Peter's capacity for self-comfort made him even more likable. But his status as the sophisticated Englishman occasionally hindered his ability to perform. He once remarked, "I'm more than just a well-dressed Englishman." But people don't seem to see that behind the scenes, life in the Rat Pack wasn't as glamorous as it seemed. Sinatra was the leader, and his strong personality frequently caused tension. Peter also battled alcoholism and drug abuse, which occasionally affected his work during Sergeants 3. Sinatra even threatened to replace him due to his drinking. Sammy Davis Jr. always stepped in to help Peter stay on course. Peter Lawford led an exciting but complex life, caught between two powerful worlds: Hollywood's glitz and the political power of the Kennedy family. He helped plan major events for the Kennedys, such as a well-known fundraiser at the Beverly Hilton in July 1960, which featured performances by celebrities like Judy Garland and Frank Sinatra. The goal of the event was not only to raise money for Kennedy's presidential campaign, but also to demonstrate that Hollywood believed in. Lawford also introduced JFK to the world of the Rat Pack, a group of well-known entertainers led by Frank Sinatra, who became major supporters of Kennedy during his 1960 campaign. Sinatra even sang a special version of High Hopes just for Kennedy. Kennedy Lawford's home in Santa Monica, a glamorous beach house, became a hot spot where politicians and celebrities met in February 1960. It was there that Marilyn Monroe first met JFK, a meeting that would result in countless rumors and scandals. A phone call in March 1962 caused Peter Lawford's life to take a drastic turn. Frank Sinatra was excited to host President John F. Kennedy in Palm Springs, and he spent a great deal of money renovating his house, adding a helipad, and even building a special wing to accommodate JFK and his team. Sinatra saw this as an opportunity to strengthen his influence and get closer to the Kennedys. But just a few days before the visit, JFK's brother, Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, intervened because he disapproved of Sinatra's ties to mob figures like Sam Ganana and believed it was not a good idea for JFK to remain there. Instead, JFK stayed at the home of Bing Crosby, a Republican. Peter Lawford was caught in the middle as Sinatra's friend and JFK's brother-in-law, and he had to be the one to deliver the bad news. On March 24, 1962, Lawford called Sinatra to explain the change. Lawford attempted to deflect the situation by claiming it was a security concern rather than a personal one, but Sinatra didn't care and erupted, calling Lawford derogatory names. The call ended abruptly, but Sinatra's anger didn't stop there. He used a sledgehammer to smash the helipad he had constructed for JFK, tore down pictures of the president, and tore apart anything that reminded him of the visit. 2 days later, Sinatra formally expelled Lawford from the Rat Pack, telling the other members, including Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr., to sever their ties with Lawford as well. This wasn't just a personal loss for Lawford, it ruined his career. Lawford went from being a star in big-budget films to having trouble finding work. When the Rat Pack made a movie called Robin and the Seven Hoods, Lawford was supposed to play a big part, but Sinatra replaced him with Bing Crosby, which made matters worse. The fallout from Lawford's career didn't end there. His marriage to Patricia Kennedy was already in shambles due to his drinking and affairs, and in February 1966, she filed for legal separation, accusing him of cruelty and requesting custody of their 4 children. The months-long, ugly divorce battle ended in September when Lawford agreed to a settlement. The outcome was difficult for Lawford. He lost custody of his children and had to pay $20,000 a year in child support, which was a significant sum at the time. He also had to maintain a $100,000 life insurance policy for the children to cover these expenses and his legal bills. He sold their opulent Santa Monica beach house. The divorce not only depleted his finances, but also destroyed his social life. Patricia's family severed their relationship with him, and he lost the influential. After the divorce, Lawford's drinking and drug use went out of control. By the 1970s, he was addicted to cocaine, spending thousands of dollars a week on it. His health started to deteriorate, and in 1971 he passed out from a cocaine overdose at a hotel. Doctors warned him that he could die if he didn't quit, but he was unable to overcome his addictions, despite numerous attempts at rehab. In the 1980s, years of alcohol and drug abuse had left Lawford's health in ruins. He developed liver disease and showed signs of brain damage at the age of 60, looking much older, his face and body showing the toll of his hard-living lifestyle. He also had a stay at the renowned Betty Ford Center in 1983, but his behavior became so erratic that he began losing acting jobs. In one embarrassing moment, he showed up drunk to film an episode of Fantasy Island in 1977, and the director had to replace him. Harder and harder to find work, he only starred in 3 successful movies in the 1970s. By the middle of the decade, his finances were almost completely depleted, and he had to sell his expensive car and even his valuable collection of antique suns to pay off his debts. The IRS pursued him for unpaid taxes, so he took any jobs he could find, including infomercials and low-budget films. In a desperate attempt to raise money, he sold private letters from Marilyn Monroe to a tabloid for money, and occasionally gave interviews about the Kennedys. Despite everything, Lawford continued to try to make a comeback. In 1978, he played a small part in Hawaii 5 as a charming con man, and while audiences enjoyed his performance, it didn't lead to more opportunities. His best attempt at a comeback came in 1981, when he played a boxing promoter in the TV movie Body and Soul. Although critics praised his performance, the film didn't help him regain his career, and the majority of his subsequent roles were guest appearances on TV shows where he frequently portrayed his former glamorous self. He even made a comeback to Fantasy Island in 1980, saw him make amends for his previous failure on the show. His final role was in a low-budget, small-budget movie called Where is Parsifal, which was completed in 1983 but released after his death. The film was a failure and signaled the tragic end of a once promising career. On December 24, 1984, at the age of 61, Peter Lawford passed away from cardiac arrest at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, complicated by kidney and liver failure. His death culminated a turbulent life that had witnessed the pinnacles of Hollywood glamour, and Peter Lawford was a man who everyone trusted with their secrets in Hollywood. This reputation earned him the nickname, The Vault. He became known as the guy who could keep secrets no matter what. In a final humiliation, Lawford's family was unable to pay the $10,000 required to keep his remains at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery. His fourth wife, Patricia Satan Lawford, eventually scattered his ashes in the Pacific Ocean, a place he had loved throughout his life. When Sinatra's bad temper, mob connections, and love affairs were all visible to Lawford, he never spoke to anyone about his loyalty, which made him a favorite among Hollywood stars. By the 1950s, Lawford was more than just a friend to celebrities. He was their go-to person for help when a scandal threatened to ruin someone's career. In one instance, when Ava Gardner overdosed at a party, Lawford kept it out of the news. Another time, Judy Garland nearly got arrested for drunk driving, but Lawford persuaded the police that she was tired of. He was always aware of what to say and who to talk to because he was intoxicated, but his work as a secret keeper didn't end in Hollywood. In 1960, he introduced John F. Kennedy to Marilyn Monroe at a party. Lawford organized everything and made sure that no photographers were present, because that meeting resulted in a dangerous affair that Lawford spent years trying to conceal. To make it safer, he developed a system that allowed him to discuss private topics like calling affairs, lunch dates, and criminal meetings using code words. One of the most enigmatic aspects of Lawford's life was his connection to Marilyn Monroe's death in 1962. He was among the last to speak with her, and that night he called to invite her to dinner, but she sounded strange and upset, telling him to say goodbye to the president and goodbye to yourself because you're a nice guy. Lawford wanted to check up on her after her death, but others told him not to. By the 1960s, people claimed he knew over 200 secrets that could end lives, but he remained composed and never made a mistake. Lawford later said he regretted not going to her that night, although he acknowledged it has haunted him ever since his life fell apart in his later years. But his loyalty never did. Even on his deathbed in 1984, when asked about the Kennedys, he smiled and said, "I'll take those to my grave," which is exactly what he did. Rumors began that he cleaned up the scene to protect the Kennedy family, and some even claimed he destroyed her famous Red Diary, which may have contained information about her relationships with John and Robert Kennedy. In his memoir, Christopher Lawford wrote that his father's refusal to share secrets cost him his relationship with his children. Christopher described a heartbreaking conversation from 1983, in which his father, intoxicated and depressed, told him, "I know things that would shock the world, but I'll never tell. It's my curse to bear alone." In 2018, Victoria Lawford, Peter Lawford's daughter, shocked everyone by disclosing secrets about the Rat Pack. Victoria shared a terrifying story from December 1963 about how her father nearly died backstage at the Sands Hotel after taking too many drugs in a panic. Frank Sinatra called on mob connections to keep the story out of the press, but Victoria says this was just one of many dangerous moments the group worked hard to hide. She also confirmed a rumor that the group's carefree, fun image was fake, and that her father had told her about the dark truth behind their glamorous lives. Victoria estimated that her father alone had organized at least 37 of these meetings between 1960 and 1965, which had been widely reported for years. This was something that deeply troubled him later in life, and Peter Lawford's diaries added even more shocking details about that time, when he wrote about wild Hollywood parties, where drugs like cocaine and amphetamines were handed out freely. The Rat Pack, which included her father, helped arrange meetings between powerful men and young actresses. These weren't innocent introductions, they were exploitative of women who were desperate to succeed in Hollywood. When he wrote, "I've become a drug dealer to the stars, how did this happen?" Lawford acknowledged that he was aware of at least 14 significant scandals involving famous people. These secrets were so serious that they could have destroyed careers or even changed history. And keeping them secret caused him so much stress that by 1972, he was taking up to 30 value pills a day, just to deal with the fear of unintentionally revealing them. One of the most disturbing secrets was about a car accident at a party in 1966. According to Lawford, a famous politician, whose identity he never disclosed, had been drinking and had used his car to conceal a young woman who was seriously hurt. In order to hide it, Lawford assisted the police and made arrangements for her medical treatment and relocation to Europe. He later referred to this as the beginning of the end for him, claiming it destroyed his relationship with the Kennedy family and caused him to doubt his own ethics.